sorry to keep you waiting. Welcome to the world of the artistic process. My name is Professor Juiceman. People call me the artistic process professor. This world is inhabited by creatures that we call ideas or inspiration. People and ideas live together by supporting each other. Some people passively enjoy others' ideas. Some use ideas as inspiration to create their own. But we don't know everything about the artistic process just yet. There's still many mysteries to solve. That's why I study the process every day. Now, what did you say your name was? Are you ready? Your very own creative story is about to unfold. You'll face fun times and tough challenges. A world of dreams and adventures with inspiration awaits. Let's go! I'll be seeing you later.
Hi, I'm FDRawr. I stream myself and those close to me losing at video games pretty frequently over on Twitch, as well as dropping the occasional YouTube video about things that happen to you rattling around in my noggin. So, what am I on about today? If you're a fan of popular music, you've probably heard of a group called Paramore, fronted by the charismatic Hayley Williams. Undoubtedly, talented titans such as herself have had a very positive impact overall on the industry, especially in regards to opening doorways for other female musicians along the way. That said, if you were around when their sophomore album Riot hit the radios, you'd know that Paramore was quite the hot topic. During this time, it wasn't all that uncommon for people to use Paramore's success as a tool to undermine other female musicians. Bands like Flyleaf or Tonight Alive that had achieved their own sound in their own rights were typically written off as Paramore-esque cash grabs, and this comparison is almost entirely based on the gender of the fronting member of each group. This isn't a slight against Paramore, it's something that always has been and always will be beyond their control. But when a piece of art like Riot gains that kind of popularity, it creates these easy channels of pattern recognition that trick our brains into thinking two things are a lot more similar than they are because they share a few surface level commonalities. If your mind is already made up about Palworld and Pokemon and this intro is just adding gas to the fire for you, you're specifically who I'm trying to have a dialogue with. And I hope you can watch this whole video and tell me what you think, what I got wrong and all that. But first, be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube for more of this kind of content, and go check me out live on Twitch to see all this action happening in real time. Everything you do helps grow these channels so I can make more of this. On we go! I'm a huge Pokemon fan. And I mean huge Pokemon fan. I've played every single generation of the mainline games. I've collected the manga and the comics. Yes, they're two different things. I've built the nano blocks. I've Poke-vomited all over my guitar pedal board. I love this franchise, and it's meant a lot to me over the years. It's something I share with my children, with my wife, with my friends. I say this to establish that I am, despite my anti-consumerist values, a true fan of this franchise. Why would I need to establish this? Would anyone really accuse someone of not being a true fan of Pokemon? Spend a day on Reddit to find your answer. Pokemon means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I don't believe in a hierarchy of true fandom. But questioning my love for the franchise is a bit silly. As a longtime fan though, I know the originality of Game Freak's character design has long been scrutinized. From Xerneas taking obvious inspiration from the spirit of the forest in Princess Mononoke, to Jigglypuff literally being Kirby with curls. And in almost all of these instances, one could make the argument of inspiration. Much as Magikarp evolving into Gyarados is Game Freak's retelling of the myth of the Longmen or the Dragon's Gate, Xerneas and Jigglypuff could easily be viewed as an homage to the influence of Miyazaki and Sakurai on the art staff at Game Freak. What I'm saying is these Pokemon aren't blatant rip-offs. They're art that reflect something. Not necessarily a perfectly unique take on the real world, but a reinterpretation of someone else's unique take on the real world. It's not like they just took the name and concept of a character wholesale and then added a little bit of their artistic flair and pushed it out as a character of their own. If you watch the stream, you probably know that I'm a big fan of Osamu Tezuka. the Japanese manga writer of considerable influence to the medium. In particular, I enjoy some of his darker works like Apollo Song and Phoenix, the latter of which Wikipedia claims was his life's work. Now, Phoenix is a big old 12-volume manga, and I actually started reading it before they published all 12 volumes in English. So I actually haven't read them all, but there are a few recurring characters throughout each series, one of which is the titular Phoenix, the Firebird, Ho-Oh. As a young adult, I usually reserve my opinions on plagiarism for the realm of music, though I did delve into homebrewing D20 systems to replicate Pokémon, as well as the occasional clumsy attempt at base-level game design. When I read Phoenix and saw that magical, life-giving Firebird Ho-Oh, I thought it was cool that Pokémon had inserted such an iconic character into their games, and I still feel that way. This character, Ho-Oh, has few, if any, artistic traits to define them as a uniquely Pokémon character, especially considering Tezuka's major influence on the artistic stylings of most Japanese artists. Tezuka, being a chronic Disney fan, incorporated a lot of Disney's artistic stylings into his own work. This is going to be a bit crude, but you ever notice how older Disney animations tend to give their protagonists large, rounded eyes to include the animals, whereas antagonists were given more angular, almost triangular eyes to also include the animals? Tezuka and other Disney-influenced artists helped mold this character-defining eye styling into wider manga and anime as mediums. Is this a ripoff? I don't think so. I think culture is a little more fluid than that. To say that because a few Pokemon might seem somewhat derivative of, say, Tezuka's strange beings, animals with Disney-fied eyes applied, maybe given an elemental factor to their design, and now Pokemon as a concept is just one big ripoff, that would be a huge stretch. If you're a fan of horror books or movies or games, you've probably heard the term Lovecraftian more than a few times. You may even be aware that it refers not necessarily to titles written by the American Weird Tales author himself, but to a body of work that spans much longer than his own life and penmanship. As a word, Lovecraftian can mean any work which takes place in or references the ongoing universe of the writings of HP Lovecraft. It can also refer to a simple, eerie, and unsettling tone. The term may also be used just to refer to tentacle monsters and space gods. However you use the term, it never only applies to the works of H.P. Lovecraft. It implies a certain influence by the works for sure. It tells you something is informed by the works of Lovecraft, but it doesn't tell you who made it or if they're owned by the same parent company as the person who originally created it. These stories can range in their influence from being barely recognizable as taking place in the same universe to direct continuations of Lovecraft's tales featuring the same cast and setting. In fact, the public domain is so real with H.P. Lovecraft that Batman's most popular video game is named after a setting in the Lovecraftian universe. Arkham Asylum is, of course, an infamous subject of its own special weird tale, but it's also where Batman puts the Joker time and time again to ensure he'll never kill again, over and over again. How's that violence and incarceration working out for your recidivism, Bruce? And this is all fine. Everything I'm talking about is a nothing burger. Just writers referencing culturally relevant works in their own art, sometimes explicitly and sometimes subtly. Sometimes they'll just name their asylum after you to shout you out in a different generation. This was something well understood prior to 2024. There aren't many original ideas out there, not truly original anyway. Fortnite is just PUBG that knows what its audience wants. Sonic is just Mario Brothers, but faster. Overwatch 1.5 is just Team Fortress 2 with charming designs. The gaming sphere, much like any other art form, is a machine that constantly recycles. That is not to say innovation isn't as frequent as it is beautiful, but it's not a tangible item to be held or owned by one group over another. Despite what some of the nihilistic inner voices I'm sure everyone has as well might have told you, culture is not dead or at a standstill. It's alive and moving. It eats up the old and recycles it in varying degrees of originality. It is a fluid in perpetual motion all around us, unconcerned and unstoppable. Every wonderful breath you utter becomes the wind under a butterfly's wings as it soars to new heights. That is to say, Palworld is an unoriginal game in a lot of ways. The crafting mechanics and base building, while definitely tailored to the in-game universe, aren't incredibly inventive or clever. The creature designs are, well, basically just animals with Disney eyes and an elemental flair or two. The concept of catching creatures in a ball and releasing them to battle is a bit derivative, but considering the combat is anything but turn-based and that the combat really is a small portion of the game in general, that's a pretty superficial criticism. The storytelling in Palworld, funny enough, seems to harken to another franchise, the Soulsborne franchise. It seems pretty cryptic and reserved, which actually kind of makes it difficult to have a lot of concern for. A lot of this game's open world elements feel like amalgamations of Breath of the Wild and Ark, and honestly, it's pretty damn buggy. Not quite Pokemon Scarlet and Violet buggy, or Starfield buggy, but it can get pretty bad. That out of the way, Palworld is doing gangbusters numbers. It's drawing in a bunch of players, to include myself, for extended playing session. It's also doing this while not being a free-to-play Battle Pass style game as of recording, which means it's drawing in a lot of money. It also has released a roadmap shortly after the game launch, which gives players an idea of what to expect as well as a set of standards to which the devs can be held accountable. And above all that, it's just damn fun. Building a base with friends is a blast. The bosses have character to their battle styles that make it worth grinding for a win against them. The art is bright and vibrant, which makes it ideal for those extended play sessions. And last but certainly not least, it seems like they're trying to do something here. As a longtime Pokemon fan, I fell in love with Legends Arceus from the start. I thought it was a unique take on Pokemon that retained enough of the core ideas to stand as a mainline title. But I was naive to think that the subtitle didn't come with artistic restrictions. The next mainline release was shameful. It would have been shameful at the $30 to $40 price point, but at full retail, it was a joke. I think that while they continue to put out new titles, Game Freak has made its impact on the industry. A titanic impact. Pokemon is the largest media franchise in the world at time of recording, now that Winnie the Pooh went public domain. And that level of popularity and influence comes at the cost of being part of the wider culture. Just like you can't rip off Tezuka or Lovecraft, you can only reference them. In my eyes, you can't really rip off something like Pokemon, since it's not even really a competitor in its own genre anymore. Pokemon is movies, shows, soundtracks, plushies, centers in New York and Tokyo, wallets, perfume, Pez dispensers, books, YouTube videos. It is a part of the modern culture. And to criticize something as being unoriginal because it references the wider culture, in my opinion, isn't a very good criticism. What do you think? Does Pokemon have too big of a cultural impact to be able to imply that their intellectual property is being ripped off? Or am I just a big dummy who needs to shut his mouth on the subject? Be sure to comment and let me know which it is down below. And while you're there, be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and check out my other videos if you're bored and need something to watch. Or catch my streams over on Twitch. That said, it's all just video games and we're all just weirdos trying to have fun. Good luck next round.